This is a meeting of the Hanson Recreation Commission. We are in the main lodge at Camp Quaney. And this meeting is being recorded, both audio and visual. Those in attendance are Diane Cohen, Melissa Sperton, John Fazzetti,
Frank Lisi,
Audrey Flanagan. And in the audience, we have
Phil Clements,
James
Chave, Patrick Howard.
Excellent.
Patty Story.
Again. Very quickly on the agenda, did anybody or everybody have time to read the minutes from August 23rd? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from August 23rd meeting. Thank you. Second? Thanks, Frank. Okay, thanks, Frank. All those in favor? I want a discussion. Yep. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to open this meeting and let Phil go first because he has to be at another meeting.
Right, time constraints, but we're all familiar with those.
But I really do appreciate you being here.
Well,
So this is about the cove. This is about the cove, washout at the cove, erosion at the cove, and also sand wasps at the cove. We're going to get into too.
Well, that's a very ambitious schedule for just 15 minutes.
Go. Go. I'll put a timer on.
Appreciate the chance to talk with you folks. Communication is one of the most important, but also most time-consuming things that we all do. We try to do it all the time, and sometimes we succeed. As probably everyone here knows, last week, on the morning of September 2nd, I sent an email. I didn't see it because I was out. I didn't see it until about noontime. It was an invitation to visit the beach. Bill Bernardo, our health agent, communicated that there was, shall we say, some storm damage at the beach, just like all across the Northeast. And long and short of this, I got down to the beach early afternoon, and what I did and what I recommended and so on and so forth is summarized in a two-page, and I think we've provided to you copies, hard copies of an email. This was put together on an emergency basis. No one else's conservation is available because our agent was off last week, and Thursday our administrator doesn't work. But as chairman of the commission, I felt I should do what I could, so I did.
Thank you.
And we came down to the cove. There was a lot of us there. Bill Bernardo was there, I was there, and in the course of the morning, James Shade, highway department arrived, and also Jerry Davis, the water department, was operator, Steve Archibald was there, and Dory from the commission staff got down. So there was a lot of communication. We looked at what went on. Basically, as everyone knows, there was a lot of storm water that came down the driveway and across the parking lot, and a lot of it went into the stormwater retention basin. It was built there 7 or 8 years ago, but there was so much water it couldn't all fit, so a lot of it went going.
Right.
And as of last September 2nd, as of that morning or the middle of the day, you can see that water had flowed from the stormwater retention basin basically to the north and northwest, right onto the beach and around the vicinity of the bathhouse, but mostly in front of the bathhouse, maybe something, that's what I'm told anyway. And a swath, it looked like something you'd see out in the desert out west where a sudden storm created oil. We had a valley about a foot or more deep in some places and up to 6 feet wide in other places, in a lot of places, that went straight down across the middle of the beach, and between the lifeguard chair and the stream out of the pond, it dug a valley, and a lot of sand had been on the beach. It was now in the pond, under the pond. So there was an impact on the pond itself. It's what we call erosion. But the beach sand is so loose, soft, and unstable that all it takes is a heavy storm like this for it to happen. We know this is not a new thought. It's occurred to you before. In fact, a document that made copies out there and it's available to hand out to people who've seen it before. There is a document called Beach Erosion Control and Maintenance Plan, Hanson, Town Hanson, Camp Quaney, Beach parking area, last updated in January 2014. This was prepared for the camp management by a Beta Group, who at that time was providing town engineering services. So this is
So
known.
Phil, could you summarize all of this for us?
In a few minutes. It was anticipated correctly that when we expanded the Cove parking area, that the storm water would flow downhill. That's what water always does. And when it gets to things like loose sand, it will do what it always does, which is move the material until it's forced to stop. Many things were considered in this other document put together by the Beta Group that talks about the business of sand clogging the outflow pipe, which is the beginning of the Indian Head Brook at the beach, right in the middle of the beach. It talks about proper management, sort of anticipating the stormwater management regulations that are now upon us. Hanson has a permit that's supposed to comply with. But it talks about how to manage the structures that were put in place, which actually were overwhelmed by this last storm. And it talks about inspections, how to time those inspections, what to look at during the inspections, how to basically see how the system is working and whatever maintenance is required. It speaks about collaboration with the town's highway, the water department personnel, because we all know they are the equipment masters of the town of Hanson, small community. And the last page talks about repairs as needed, removal of accumulated sand, and documentation of inspection. I think there were some attachments to this. There was a inspection form, maintenance log form, and what they call a Chapter 91 waterways license. Chapter 91 is the part of the state laws that apply to great ponds and the pond, and you don't just go in and do things. You have to follow the letter of the law. And Mr. Hanson and the Beta Group did that. I would humbly submit that in the last 7 years, we might not have totally, as a town, kept up with all this. It was an okay plan, but since then, time has gone by. We now have an MS4 permit, which brings with it extra responsibilities, as Mr. Shea was aware, and others too. Many departments in town share responsibility for that. But bringing it back to the last few days, we had an emergency because there was now a pretty significant valley right across the beach, and we did not get close to the season. There was still nice warm weather, still is now. This was not a good situation. There were health concerns that the health agent was concerned with. Conservation is concerned about the deposition of quite a lot of sand into the pond. And the way I would crudely summarize it is, if we didn't do anything, we would process of filling up the hole with sand, which, again, not a new idea, but it's something that we've never liked, and we would like to see it not happen. In this case, we issued a recommendation that on an emergency basis, we remove the sand 12 to 24 hours earlier, head it on the beach, put it back on the beach, reestablish the natural pond water, not bury it under the sand, and put a row of new bales of stakes securely placed across where the valley had been, so as to stabilize things. And if we have another rainstorm in the very near future, it wouldn't happen all over again. And so those things were done by the cooperation of highway and water departments, and the health agent supervised a lot of this. And we simply did what had to be done and documented it here as an emergency action. I spoke today with the conservation agent who had no difficulty with what was done, other reasons for it. But all of us ought to be concerned with how do we be more proactive in the future, not only with regard to erosion, but other things that happen in and around sand, such as sand loss. I wish I could say it would be straightforward and simple, and maybe 75 or 80 years ago, before our environmental and health regulations, it would have been fairly simple. But there's going to be some planning paperwork that will be needed. I'm not prepared to say tonight what that all will be. I can't speak unilaterally for the commission. We are meeting tomorrow night, so there will be some informal discussion about this. But also, I think that the conservation agent and administrative assistant stand ready to discuss it. But when you work request that we be involved in whatever the community actions we anticipate. That's happening now. The highway department might be getting engineering drawings or other technical plans put together that we need to be able to have it be readily approved by all parties in time for action to happen during this growing season. Because in the fall, it is a good time to grow grass, but it's never a good time to rush paperwork too much. One thing that we speak about in conservation is following our own rules. If someone else around the pond had plans to move a lot of sand and do a lot of planting and this and that, we ask them to come before us and they can even file a notice for those plans. What we don't want to do is require that of the general public, but not of the town itself. An example of how we try to be consistent with our requirements is conservation has a lot of property responsible for some of its wetlands. Some years ago, we followed the example of several other towns in Massachusetts. We put together what we call a blanket notice of intent. We put together a rationale for why we would need to do occasional things like put the trail in or a bench or a sign, that sort of light impact activity, and included an appendix that describes many examples of that and which responsible towns do, so the public can enjoy the properties and this and that. And we had a hearing on it, we filed, we got a DEP number, it was submitted to DEP, it's all been approved. So we have a DEP file number that covers the activities we do on our own property, up to a point. If we're going to do something huge and major, it would be a simple, painless thing. It's fine. I don't know if it's possible to create something like that for the camp, but there's things like managing the erosion of the beach, managing the surface of the back of the beach. Should it be grass? Should it be sand? We have many reasons to think that grass would be a very good idea. It also would be a return to more natural conditions. Because up until 1950 or so, it was all grass and woods there. There was no beach. And we know that there's been a lot of changes there, and sometimes that grandfathers in a little bit, but we have to look carefully and make sure we weren't cutting corners on how we comply with our own regulations, both at the town level and at the state level.
So Phil, can I?
Please interrupt.
Okay, thank you. You and I had spoken about bringing the beach back to its natural state of a woodland area, more vegetation on the beach.
Vegetation improvement, I would say.
Improvement, yes. So what you're saying is that we should come up, maybe submit a plan to you about what we think might work down there and get your input and see how to go about it. Then if it's approved, file a notice of intent, or is this more of a town issue? Or is it more of a recreation commission, Camp Monty issue? And these are kind of lines that are a little bit blurred for us, but we do know that we want to open the beach next year, and because we had to close it for probably a month this year, and we would like to provide swimming lessons as well. So time is of the essence.
I think that you're right on those counts. We absolutely see this as something that not just the Recreation Commission, not just recreation and conservation, but it's really a town-wide issue. What we have, and everyone on the commission here knows it, we have the crown jewel of the town's recreation and environmental resources here. The one pond is so clean, it's so nice, it's so inviting, that for 70 plus years, we've loved it. I won't say loved it to death, but we've loved it a lot, with the beach and the docks and everything, and the expansion of that. We need to, however, acknowledge that things like our MS4 stormwater management permit involve Mr. Shea here, and it also involves other town departments like conservation. We're involved necessarily with anything that impacts the pond and wetlands and water bodies like that. So I think it does rise above the average level of decisions. You're watching the floor here, that's a good decision. But doing these sorts of things out there, it would be, I think, important to share up to and including the Board of Selectmen what our thinking there's a reason for it, but also to be as efficient as possible. None of us would like to see 100 more cubic yards of sand wash into the pond over the winter.
Right.
We made a recommendation a couple of years ago that we, at least for the winter, put a barrier, erosion control barrier along the crest of the beach, not right down the water, but the way, so that should we have more storms, whether it be big ones like this one or even bigger, or runoff from snow melt or anything like that, we don't spend the winter filling up the overhang, clogging the pipe, etc. There may be a little of the road approach where we can both control the road and responsibly plan how to get ready for next year and for years after that. I have other thoughts too about how the can and probably should think about managing its vegetation everywhere. The steep slope here that goes out to the pond, every tree and shrub and little thing growing that is our friend. Is trying to keep the hill from washing into the pond. We need to use the vegetation the way it was designed by nature to work. But back down on the beach, we can talk and should talk in conservation office and back and forth here about a way to, I think, not just the dozen or so hay bales that are there right now, but when the season is truly over this year, have some sort of barrier across the beach, which doesn't have to be all that expensive and complex, so that we keep the loose sand from moving down, but also plan what to do on the uphill side of that barrier. There may be things that can be done in a timely manner to move towards revegetating the beach, so that you have a nice surface that's actually fun to be on. It's not unpleasant or unsafe in any way, but also is more stable and not just greener in the environmental sense, but literally green. I think all of us have been to state parks and things I have, where it's a beautiful grassy area, almost right down to the edge of this one. That's kind of cool. But we have imported so much sand there, sand itself doesn't support grass very well.
Right.
There would need to be some things done. I think the good thing is, there is this plan that's been around for 7 or 8 years, whatever. It gives us a starting point. Probably time for a new draft of this.
Okay, so I'm thinking, because of the sand wasp issue and the washout issue, I would like to remove the sand from the beach and actively in the off-season keep hay bales there and whatever other management procedures need to be put in place. I mean, whatever we do. But I would like to remove the sand anyway, because if we don't get rid of the sand wasp nests that are here right now, we've been assured by the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife that we are going to have them again next year. And they do love the habitat, and ever since the greenery was removed from the fencing areas, like there were a lot of trees taken down there. A couple were dead, others were not, but everything was removed. And this is the first year, and now we have sand wasps. We need to revegetate around the edges of the pond and maybe return it to a grassy area in the middle of the pond. So I'd like to remove some of that sand, thus digging up the sand wasp nests that are currently there and going to hatch next spring. Even if we don't get all of them, at least we remove some sand, then they may freeze over the winter and we won't have the issue. Then lay some loom or topsoil, or however you're referring to it, and possibly have it hydroseeded. And I did have somebody come out just to look, because they were here and we were meeting on the other landscaping issue to measure and put together what that would cost. So I'm going to go ahead, Frank.
So 2 things, Phil. What I don't know what the proper name for us. Those people doing construction in a new house, they have kind of it's like, well, this big, it's mesh, it looks like a tube, it's filled with hay. Is that what you're talking about? When it comes to blocking the sand, can you put that?
There's a number of ways to control erosion, and I think we've all seen them on construction sites.
Yeah.
One of the simplest and least expensive is what they call a straw wall.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, a woven kind of biodegradable material. It's probably about a quarter as high as a hay bale, but it's kind of like a long skinny hay bale like a sausage is taking place. That may or may not be enough. We have to discuss quickly with people who talk about these things a lot. That's one of the things.
If it's biodegradable, does that mean that the wrapping around it biodegrades and then it releases straw?
If it's left typically on the edge of a site, maybe it's even at the edge of the woods, it would eventually blend in with the tree or leaf fall and stuff like that. On a beach like this, it probably would show up a lot longer. I don't know that we can plan with certainty the end of service life of that right now, but that's one thing. It's less obtrusive than these erosion control socks, which are usually black, larger diameter, heavy, kind of expensive. And of course, hay bales or straw bales, that's also an option too, but it's kind of a...
Well, we don't want to fill the beach.
It's
We don't want to fill
more
the
like,
bottom with straw.
it's not like a hay ride, it's a beach.
Right. We would be temporary.
But
It
the
would be
thing
temporary.
is, all these materials, especially the straw and hay, if it washes the pond, it's not going to kill anything. I mean, it's probably a bunch of like it and eat it. But the idea is to kind of prioritize in all the options that you can do. What to do if there's an efficient timeline to be on that both complies with regulations and also meets the town's goal, not just this commission's goal, but town-wide goal of keeping our beautiful beach area available. I would say this too, this is just my own personal observation. There always is going to need to be a sandy stretch between, call it the crest of the beach and the water.
Yes.
The pond goes up and down. In the last several years, I've seen a 4+ foot difference in elevation, which translates to much more than 4, probably like 24 or 30 horizontal feet. The docks were installed with that knowledge.
Right.
I think a good job was done there. But I don't think we want to give anyone the impression, either conservation or others, want to do away with sand at the beach. That's not going to happen. There's always going to be sand.
We always have to have some, yes.
But we would reduce the amount of artificially introduced sand that makes the problem worse.
Right. Right.
What about process material in the parking lot from the access road? Would that slow the erosion down? I know from a highway perspective.
Getting some kind of a berm on it, yeah, some kind of a berm.
Yeah,
So
berm.
the parking lot is going to divert either to the drainage at the beginning or go toward the end of the road, toward the end of each down past the ramp.
It would slow.
Type of thing. Yeah, because you don't want the water rushing down that hill through the parking lot,
Yeah.
through the beach, the pool house, you know.
My suggestion to Mr. Shade and others would be like, look carefully at what was engineered before. I'm sure the drawings are still around. You can see it. But might be the capacity isn't great enough and not enough berms. And when there is overflow, make sure it doesn't go the way it just did.
Yeah, it's going to go back to it.
Direct it towards a place that causes less damage or no damage at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think Hanson had over 4 inches of rain in 12 hours, which is pretty close to a record for around here, but there's no reason to think we will never have that again. Very much maybe 6 inches. But the planning, how the stormwater structures or infrastructure is set up, that should be looked at as well as the beach. I think.
It's part of the problem is that the beach area is lower than the parking lot.
Right, we unintentionally had the overflow from the stormwater controls straight onto the beach.
One of the things you see there is an access gate, a mechanical gate, that where you pump off the holding tanks. And I know that was put in there and the road was kind of washed out because of that. I mean, we can always come in from another angle to pump those tanks without having to go down that road.
Yeah, I think the front door is.
Yeah, and seal that off.
Because you want to get the, cut back in the beach area, have some kind of a retaining wall, maybe some vegetation to kind of hold it. And then any long grass you're putting, you want to kind of slope back toward the woods and back toward the retention area. So you're not, with a slight slope away from that, so you're not encouraging the water to travel down toward the beach.
Because what we see is that it comes down and it washes.
Yeah, if it comes off that hill,
Holding tanks.
that steep hill over there, it just, comes down in a rush. So if you can kind of divert it away to the sides and keep it off the beach.
Especially to the.
If I could say, back until
If you have stuff coming down surface over here, though, too, that's not gonna make it that high, it's gonna wanna go toward the beach, toward the ramp, so you kind of have to do something, address that area too.
the first couple of decades we had at Cranberry Cove Beach, the part that's cracked out now was woods. There were trees, there were shrubs, there was leaf litter and just things all over the ground, and a lot of ground cover. And right now, we've created an impervious surface that the water comes surfing across. So we did see this coming as a town. But again, I think I would sort of close by saying, together in a way that is efficient, but also meets as many requirements as we're aware of. Look at the existing beach erosion control and maintenance plan. Look at our town's MS4 permit, and look at some other towns and see if we can have a system, probably both an immediate and an intermediate and longer term approach to these things. And by doing the right thing in the right order, we'll solve the problems. I unfortunately have another obligation that I should step away from, but these are, I see these as starting points.
Right.
And the discussion is to start and hopefully accelerate.
So this is more, I just have one more process question, Phil, if you just give me a minute. So how would we go about having a meeting with conservation and us to discuss this as a whole? Because I don't know what the OML law.
Okay, here's the process, and we love this when this happens. Call the office, make an appointment. It can be during the week and talk with the staff, and especially with Frank, our agent, or at one of our meetings. Again, we'll meet tomorrow night and give this a few minutes. I'm not sure if we have a lot of time for it. Just informally talk. It's not a hearing. It's not something that has to be posted in the schedule. I mean, it's also on our agenda, but we don't have any obligations to notify about us, just to talk. But early on in the discussion, we may identify things that do get more formal. But we just sit down and hash out what we are aware of, the facts and goals. And that can be done in an informal manner with no obligations except to work together.
Okay.
Last thing. Can we highway too? Like, what, in your opinion, both of you, what is the most immediate thing we can do to ensure a safe opening?
I mean, anything we do
Next.
kind of has to be approved by conservation portion.
No, I know that,
Like,
but I'll
for
take,
input,
we will all take the right steps, but what can we do to ensure that the beach opens safely next year? What do you think the first step should be?
First step, would be to burn that parking lot and get the water from rushing onto the beach and do nothing else.
The parking lot at the Cove?
Yeah.
Burn that.
Because it just washes.
It may be that both for erosion from sand and beach into the pond and flow of stormwater from the driveway to parking area, it might be, and I'm just going to throw this out, it might be that on an emergency basis we can do some things quite quickly.
Yeah.
Because we have, there's towns and cities and things not parking that probably would declare an emergency
Right.
by the feds.
But what about the wasps?
I think that in the course of doing these other things, the wasps are going to see us doing things that they're unhappy with, which is.
But their eggs are there, and they're gonna be back next year. Is there any way we can remove the sand and then build a barn?
Well, the sand probably won't freeze in place till like December. There's plenty of time between now and then to make a plan that might involve that. Again, a plan that would suit all of the goals, including that goal.
Okay, because we just really need to get rid of the nests that are there.
I would encourage everyone though to anticipate what these things will cost. We might be able to get sort of in kind, as time permits, services from the town. There might be things that will cost a little money, but again, that's a reason for taking our thought process and having everyone aware of it. It might be that most of what we're planning isn't very costly, but there's going to be some cost somewhere because we're trying to do a lot of things in an area that's very sensitive. I don't want to give you an unrealistically positive hope that conservation can make it easy and free for everyone.
No, I know.
We would
No
hope
such
that.
thing. There's no such thing as easy in this place.
And for
It's for free anyway.
The highway department can help all the way to sand. But as far as getting home and sod and
We
seed
can-
and all that.
See, that's,
We will-
to me, the sand is a resource resource that maybe we can store somewhere else.
Yeah.
Someone else might be able to use that.
Well, that's what I figured, we may be able to use it somewhere.
Dig that out, but
I
once you
mean,
dig that out, you have to put something else in its place. You gotta-
right, and we can hopefully get that done. We do have somebody that can help do that.
Maybe we try to get the grade of that, the elevation down around the pool house because.
Right,
it's
it needs to be
flooded.
graded and so that doesn't flood, and then, I understand that. Joan left with this.
Isn't there any way of getting grants towards this, or have a couple even help out?
Going for a grant is a way to make this take a year and a half or more.
Right,
We probably don't have the luxury, unless it's something I'm not aware of. Grants take a lot of time. There's usually an award cycle that can be once a year, and it takes, you have to submit something by a certain date that's very firm, and then it takes them 3 months after that to decide who gets the grant, and it's tedious. But long-term, sure, maybe, but for the short-term actions we're looking at right now, probably keep it a little more local than that, and
Yep.
that might be a better. more
and then we
local.
could talk to you about what needs to be done further and then possibly get grants for that.
Sure, there's so many things that you can do for Quonset. We'd like the landscape to be as inviting 50 years from now as it has been, but we've done major things like put in the septic system, we've enlarged the parking area, we're trying to deal with unwanted wasp pests, we're trying to comply with the Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 91, the stormwater protection, the riverfront protection. We just need to step back and say, in priority, what can we do now?
We have
It's
the
okay to
ladder.
do, it's sensible.
The ladder.
And that. But I think there's, each one of those things is like a research paper all, it's like itself. But by using common sense and our awareness of what the regs are, and not overusing, but using as appropriate, emergency basis decisions and actions, I'm hopeful that we can do what needs to be done. And hope is a great thing, and I'm sure it'll be great next year too.
So the next step is
Informal discussion,
with,
not just me, but the
with
board
conservation,
commission and the
highway.
conservation agent, highway and water,
Water.
people with resources that we'll need.
okay,
And also, have the selectmen aware that we're having these discussions. They care, and if there's, as we all know, if you interrupt the availability of the code, the selectmen hear it too. And they wish as much as everyone for the code to be available
yep,
and for regulations to be followed. We don't want to create issues of any kind.
okay.
Thank you all for your
Thank
time.
you so much, Phil, for
Thanks so
coming.
much for what's up.
Thanks.
I don't know if you have any other questions for me or need from me.
Just that you're gonna be ready to help.
Sure, as I say, we can, I could do the thing in a month if I had free reign, but,
And, right, I know, but if we can get as much free reign as possible, we
Yeah.
get as much of
there's
this
so
done.
much that I can do. Anytime I work near water, I have to, for the highway department, to do notice of intent, so it's,
Okay,
I can't do anything there, but,
a notice of intent with conservation.
yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I have a lot of ideas, but again, that's with the conservation, and I want to.
So how do we get those ideas to conservation?
Well, a lot of them were in Phil's recommendations.
Okay.
When I met with him on the beach, I said, just get rid of all the sand in the back, put grass, have a retaining wall, have a nice beach area, on the wall. You guys put some vegetation along the wall.
We wanted to replant some trees there because
Yeah.
there were trees there that provided shade, and that will cut down on the wasps as well.
And then get the slope, get the elevation closer to that of the bathhouse, so it's
Yes.
not in the hole. Slope it back toward that culvert, past that little bridge or whatever it is by the gatehouse. Direct the water that way and toward the stream and away from the pool house.
Right.
But then again, you're gonna be lowering the grade a little bit, so you have to get some kind of berm at the edge of that parking lot, so you're sending the water either back to that retention area
Right.
or on this side.
Right now, it's,
Yeah, this side, it's still gonna come down that hill, you're not gonna make it go all the way to that retention area, so you get some kind of rip wrap, before the parking lot, place where to go without getting to the beach, type of thing, but all that stuff has to go through
conservation. And do they meet every month, every other week?
Yeah, seems like it'll be, 2 weeks.
Every 2
Yeah,
weeks?
it's really good.
Wednesdays.
So if we can get something put together,
Yeah, if you wanna put grass in there and then, remove the sand type of thing, that would be.
is there some kind of form we need to put it on, or just?
Would be,
So
That will, they're
Those
meeting
are the
tomorrow, but maybe
Yeah.
we can get on their next agenda.
Yeah.
Just a representative, us highway and the selectmen to have that informal meeting.
So would you be willing?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, just let me know the date ahead of time so it's not a conflict.
okay. All righty.
Yeah. So yeah, we can help you in any way we can. We're trying to do some, you know, backfill on some of the edge of the roads and materials and stuff like that we can do, but we start.
Well, we really need to plan for getting the sand off. Because, I mean, that way they'll lessen the washout, there's less sand to wash into the pond.
Maybe they don't even let you use insecticides anymore, so.
They don't let you use what?
Insecticides.
Oh, I know.
The powder, I can work.
Right, so we need to get the sand off because we need to get the wasps out there.
Yeah, so that's something
Use
that-
one stone?
Definitely.
One stone, is that-
Yeah, assist the removal of the sand and then
Removal of the sand, burn,
Some regrade.
regrade, I know, there's a whole. I know,
start
project.
reestablishing the area,
Yeah.
it's going to be probably outside.
Isn't there a different grade of sand that we can use out there that would be less prone to wash out into the pond and then, because
It's awesome, it's hard, it's all just
Yeah, it's
across
not
each other, it doesn't compete.
It's just the volume of the water that they, even, you know, some
But that has happened before in the past, we've had washout.
It's a huge issue up
Huge
here.
amount.
You know,
Well,
it's-
I'm waiting, you know, I would like to take care of the back of the lodge before it ends up in the pond.
Yeah, I mean, that was a 500-year storm for like New York and New Jersey, so it was a
Right,
significant
I
amount.
mean, even if it's little, that would have washed up.
right,
If
exactly.
it's just a sheer volume and high water table.
So we need to tackle that part of this.
If you had a grass area with a retention wall, then the sand, the impact would be minimal.
Right, but still, it starts with getting rid of the sand. So that's at least one thing we can start with. Okay, all right, thanks so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Yeah, there should be email.
I will,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so that takes care of the first thing on our agenda of new business. And we do need to decide when we want to close the beach now. I sort of gave an informal okay to Dory to leave it open after Labor Day just because the weather was so warm, it was closed for like a month. So I felt like we weren't, you know, trying to, I just wanted to help make things better. So what are we thinking about a closing date here?
I'd say after the first weekend of October,
Anybody else have any?
so October 3rd, or October 4th.
Any comment on that? Maddie, you're making a face, so please speak.
No, I've always been used to it after Labor Day because the kids go back to school, so I don't know who's using it anymore post Labor Day. And I only think just because we have to schedule people to open and close it, so normally the beach would open and close themselves. But whatever you guys want, just let me know because I didn't schedule anyone this week because I thought it was closed
Right.
yesterday. So I just
What
need
are
to
you
know.
thinking?
I don't think we're gonna have a heat wave too much longer, but at the same time, weekend, we're going back to the 70s, so.
Maybe this is
Maybe
the last
another
weekend
weekend.
and then weekend of the 18th, maybe.
Yeah.
One more weekend.
It's gonna get cold fast.
Yeah.
And the water, as soon as we start having cold nights, the water's gonna.
We're
The
dusty
lights
at
out
seven.
Yeah.
The nights are cool? Yeah.
And I would just keep it over the weekends, right, not during the week, because kids are at school, right?
True. Although it's not just for kids, we don't want anybody to think we're just catering to kids. So,
I mean, when did we shut it down before?
we've always shut it down on Labor Day. And that does coincide with school schedule, and I know that's where everybody's thinking, but it was shut down for a month this summer, so I didn't know where everybody felt.
Are there people there? Have you seen people there?
Dory said there were people there today on the beach.
Yeah.
That was kind of my thinking, like, if it's closed for a month, people could just do it for it. I mean, if you know, the scheduling is the big issue, obviously, if,
Plus people, I'm just thinking too, soccer is starting Saturdays, it's like all day Saturday, soccer.
Soccer,
Saturday.
football.
You know, so families aren't gonna.
Okay, so does the 18th sound reasonable to
Patriots,
everybody?
Yeah, the Patriots.
Okay, well, there you have it, that decides it. Okay, so can we say the 18th? Are we opening it just for the weekends, or do we want to do it every night until the 18th, or what are we thinking?
The 18th will be next week.
Or just do it Sunday, the 19th.
The 19th is
Sunday, just go out
Sunday.
there.
So the 19th is the Sunday, we'll keep it open this weekend and next weekend,
Just the weekend?
just the weekends.
Okay.
You want to do that, just the weekends?
Yeah.
I don't really care.
It's getting dusk, really, this.
Well, again, you know, people out there during the day, so I don't really know.
Just do
You want just the 2 weekends? Okay. And more than likely, somebody will be here for weddings. I know we only have one next week, but we have 3 last weekend.
Yeah, the rest, this weekend we have 2 canceled, but, so there's nothing Saturday and Sunday, but next weekend is back to the 3 for a while until
The
November.
weddings canceled.
It was a wedding and a party.
And they cancel?
That's what George told me.
Wow. There you go. Okay. All right. Moving on. Okay, next project by the Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts. So I'm going to give the floor to, state your name again, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, can I just go back real quick? Before we move on, can we?
Oh, vote. Vote.
No, not that, but just the next meeting for the conservation, should we select people to go to that meeting, and then who would,
I would like at least one of you to go, Brian, okay, Brian Smith. Would you be willing to go to that meeting? It's a
we don't
Wednesday.
know, we're assuming it's 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Don't, they typically.
They do Wednesdays.
Yeah.
They very rarely do off Wednesdays. So Wednesdays,
It's 7. It's 7.
Yeah, I think it's 7 o'clock. Usually post I can check.
So would anyone else like to go?
I'll go too.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna put you guys both down. Do you want me to just email Dory and ask her to reach out to conservation?
Yeah, I can email them.
Okay,
Whatever.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right,
Okay.
okay.
All right. So we will do that. We are closing the beach on the 18th. So for 2 more weekends.
19th.
The 19th, I apologize.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Good? All right, thanks. Okay. Nasty, Amy.
That's right. It was fascinating to hear about all the wasps.
What?
No wasps, not right. Patrick Powers, I'm with the Hanson Cub Scout Pack 34. We have for scouting, we have 2 Boy Scout troops in town, and we have the Cub Scout Pack. I'm the incoming Cub Master this year, working with Mike Means, who has been the previous Cub Master for the last several years. I know in the past we've had a relationship with the camp. We've done camping here, events here, the Scouts have done campouts and everything else. I know somewhere along the way there might have been something more formal, and then it became informal, and it was just more of, as the incoming person to it, throw out some potential dates to see if, during the day or the weekends we come hiking, we show up just as we would any other townsperson to hike in the camp, but we have our chartered organization is technically First Congregation over on High Street, so during the winter and stuff like that, we have use of their basement, the facilities there, the scout troops typically meet there. And as we meet, sometimes we cross dates. So there's 1 or 2 dates I was just going to throw by to see if we could potentially have access to the pavilion. We've used that in the past. Anything more formal as we head into next year, maybe just continue conversations, say if we get access to the camp or some of the facilities just to do some of the things that we do. So that's pretty much it. We've had kind of a pack hiatus, so the structure of Cub Scouts is our pack is the larger group, right? It's Cub Scouts runs anywhere from kindergarten to 5th grade, and then they graduate from Weeblos and go into Boy Scouts in middle school, high school, and so on. Our den meetings are each individual grade group has their den, right? So there's lions, tigers, cubs, bears, all that fun stuff. Yeah. So as they go for the last year and a half with everything going on with COVID, we've kind of stuck with some of the school guidance from a COVID perspective. We've avoided larger meetings, we've done things virtually. This is kind of heading into this year, when we're indoors, we mask up and all that fun stuff. We were able to have summer camp stuff this past year. I think there was some use of the camp from other scout packs or troops from around the South. And I know that's spun from the past, just a couple of years ago maybe. We're part of a larger district, that's the South Shore area basically. It runs from Situate, Marshfield area down out to Hanson and over to kind of Carver and Plymouth. So we do council roundtables once a month at different locations. Again, that's been virtual, things like that. But just looking at potential future opportunities, and even just from exposure to this amazing resource that we have in our town. If there's other troops that want to use it and, rent the facilities or do whatever, but immediate ask, I would say for us, is we have we're hoping to do it in person. Our next PAC meeting is September 21st. It's the third Thursday of the month. We would love if available to have access to the pavilion. We don't really need much. We don't bring in food. It's just a couple of bodies.
And there's electricity in there.
Yeah, we flick on the light, we clean up after we leave
Right.
and go from there.
I'm sure the 21st is available. I don't think anybody.
I have a calendar.
Yep.
There's nothing. It's
There's
just
nothing
go
on
there.
On Thursday?
Tuesday. We're gonna be in that.
Yeah. So we'll be here, and you can be in the pavilion. And really, it's just a matter of calling and checking the dates with Doreen.
Okay.
And, in the winter, should you need a place and this is available, please feel free to come in and use the launch. I don't want you cold out there in the pavilion. So.
Other scouts, they're tough. They can-
Okay.
No, just kidding.
It was still a little.
Builds character.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, it worked for me when I was a kid. And we've, I know in the past we've had Houston here, we've had there's a couple of scout leaders that are veterans that have come in, and we held events on it and had do a presentation to scouts, things like that. Long term, I've got my middle child is involved in scouts and getting into it now. My youngest will be going into it next year. I was a scout growing up. I'll probably be
You're stuck till you
I'll be
die.
roped into it for at least the next 15 years from the looks of it, which I'm fine with. I'm happy to do it. But even like long-term stuff, as the scouts that we have now grow and go on to the Boy Scout stuff, we look at things like Eagle Scout projects and volunteer work and hosting volunteer days to bring scouts out. If there's an event, can we figure out a time as a PAC to say, hey, there's an event on Saturday or Sunday, we're going to show up on Tuesday for our PAC meeting an hour early and form a line, walk, pick up all the trash, whatever it might be that we can support back from a community perspective. And even looking at erosion control and things like that, those are all stuff that for future scouts fall under some of their Eagle Scout projects.
Right, we have, the fire pits out there are Eagle Scout projects. We have a kiddo coming from the Wave Troop to redo the amphitheater down there. We love to have Eagle Scout projects here, if they are suitable and they.
It's got to make sense out of it.
Right, it's gotta make sense. So, we would really like to establish a close relationship with any of the troops that are local.
Yeah,
So,
we have a smaller group now, and as they graduate out, we've had a big push. Like we're going to be at Hanson Day on the 18th.
Yep.
It's our national joint scouting day, so we're recruiting for that, re-signing up scouts. We saw our population dip down. We're going back into the, knock on wood, into the 40 to 50 number for scouts this coming year. We hope to grow it even more. But as we see the wave of that over the next couple of years, even for this group, if there's a small project that needs to be done, say, hey, that might be a good Eagle Scout project. I know we're at the Cub Scout level, so the Scouts aren't doing that yet, but even looking at our scouting roundtable for the community to reach out to non-Hanson Scouts to say, hey, if you got something that needs to be done, you got a fire pit, a staircase, whatever it needs to be do,
we've got all that.
we're here to support it. So I don't know if anybody has any questions for me or any of that stuff, but
No, just call Dory with a date,
No.
We do have events too. We have a Halloween event that we have been doing for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
We're gonna be looking for volunteers
Oh yeah, we'll
to
have,
help out, like we do games and arts and crafts station.
Carve pumpkins.
Looking
Yeah, all
for
that
car
stuff.
pumpkins, like stuff like that. So that would be.
I know in the past too, they've had where it's, I don't know what the plans are for this year in the past, right? It was decorate the cabin, things like that.
Yes.
I know.
We'd love it if you decorate. pumpkins.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, yeah. So I know we've encouraged our scouts and their families to show up to these things. And for my vision, at least going forward, is how can we push them a little harder, maybe volunteer them. We need some people on site to get more active in some of those community events.
Volunteerism is done.
That's a tough one, right?
Yeah, it's tough.
And so hopefully we can continue to encourage that. And our older scouts in the Boy Scout troop level that, just from a liability scout perspective, can go do some more of that manual labor and stuff. It's tough to have a kindergartner swinging a hammer and an axe.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you all know, but for the older scouts too, and working with both of the scoutmasters for those two troops and obviously they've always had a good relationship here, but how do we just continue that?
Does somebody here have your phone number?
Frank might, if not, I'll make sure you have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can get the phone number to Dory.
Dory, yeah.
Yeah, We don't need a vote on using it.
Nope.
So, right?
It's all set. Because there is something in our policy that starts getting
Hanson.
Yeah, I think that was built in there somewhere. Just having not been in a formal role with myself and a gentleman by the name of Craig Nelson, guy, I know their family, they own a small business in town, a big business in town, but they are our parent committee organizer, and there's a few other members there too. So even going back tomorrow, we have we're doing it virtually, but our parent committee. So my goal is to say, hey, as we have stuff coming up, whether it's myself or a member that we share those dates, if there's stuff coming up, we'd be more and more active in some of these things and how can we support it.
Plan long-term, plan a camp out here.
That's, yeah.
The Scouts had a great time here this summer.
Yeah,
They tent camp.
yeah, it's
So-
such a great location and easy place. We have, in Kingston, there is a scout camp, Camp Squanto, where they've done some day camps and stuff like that, but we've always looked to say, how can we, our theme this year is escape the indoors because of everything that's been going on, so, at least once a month we have somebody hiking around here doing stuff, so we'll continue that, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
of course.
All right. So the next thing on the agenda is discussion on policies and procedures in June.
Okay, my first thing is on policies and procedures, you can't review what she sent out. There is an option one that we sent in at the town council's.
Still.
Was edited right.
Right.
But I have a copy of it, so if something, she could send this out.
You send it to her and I'll have her send it to everybody and I'll.
But I don't have it in the computer, I have it printed out, I have extra copies. But it was edited from this, everything with the town council gave us back on 8/29, and she gave it to us, I'm sorry, on 10/15, and Ryan redid it on 10/30, and then went back to her.
It's only a hard copy.
It's in town council's office, the last.
But it's not on the computer anywhere.
That's on my computer.
Oh, okay. So you have it with the updates that you put in.
The updates, but it went to town council because they had to approve it.
Right. And it got lost.
Sitting in the computer.
Right. I don't even know.
Like I said,
So send it to Dory, have her send it to us, and all I would ask is that we all look it over, and please put down your suggestions, any questions, any wording things, in a different coloring, so that we can,
This
go
one's
through it.
on red, blue, and then blue is some green.
Yeah, but Brian, I remember, was really good, he said red means this, and blue means that.
There's no one color on it.
Right. So I'll put this on the next agenda, okay? And we'll go over that, but let's really make an effort to look at it. Okay, then we will get it to town council, I will deliver it personally if I need to, okay? And Kate has apologized profusely.
The one we have to send it back to town council, they've already done it, we never had to go before Mary. Mary is the one that made it go to town council. We should be able to, at this point, where we put in all the edits that she wanted, we should just go to the board of selectmen and go from there.
Okay, except that now we have new board members. And I think that they would like an opportunity to chime in on what is there.
Oh, I'm not saying anything about, oh, yeah.
Right, so that's why I don't want to send it yet. I want everybody to see it, and if Lisa tells me that it needs to go to town council, then I'm gonna send it, but I will point out to her that she has already seen it, so if there are minimal changes to it.
Yeah, but it also shouldn't take 6 months to get it back from town
About 3 years.
council.
Okay?
Even if, it shouldn't take,
How much have we been billed for?
No, no. Nope, I made sure that we were not billed at all for it, and I have that in writing. I have that in an email that we have not been billed.
I mean, we can go back to December.
About 2 years ago, 2019. Okay. Or 2018 maybe, I don't know, 2018?
This was done, yeah.
Okay, so that being said, we know what we're expecting to read this week.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Close to 16 pages instead of 12, so they had 4 pages.
That's fine. Give me that.
Legal reasons.
So you're reading by the phone?
Yeah.
Don't throw it in. Don't throw it in.
I like the fire.
Yeah, right. things to our contract as well, which will also be in the policies and procedures. Because some things have come up that we needed to address, and since then, we've had a pandemic. And since then, our caretakers have, told us of things that happen when people aren't shutting down or leaving quickly, and we need to be very explicit in those things. So Maddie, I'm gonna have her send you this as well. And if you can think of anything you want to add to it from a caretaker perspective, yeah.
Well, I was gonna bring this up later, but it might fit into this discussion. So one of our events had the bar shut down and leave this weekend.
I heard about this. Yeah.
But the
What?
one of the events had the bar shut down and leave for outside alcohol. But so my question is, I've never had the bar shut down before. So the only question I had was, so they shut down, there's not that much left of the event left, but let's say, for conversation's sake, they left at like 7 and the event was until 10. Let's say that happened. What is our next line of defense? Because they all came up to us and were like, well, since the bar's gone, we can drink our stuff now. And we're like, well, no. But like, what happens if now we have future issues with them? We don't have our next thing to say. Like, it's always been the bar will leave if you drink, and then it's always ended it. So what do we do now?
The bar's contract, though, is with the individual party.
Yeah.
We don't have a say in that. And I was told today that the bar shut down because the caterers were drinking and it was an issue.
But I think Maddie's point is
What do
what's
you
next? Like what's
Right.
next when the bar's gone and then the patrons are continuing to drink? I would say that.
Here, they can't bring their own alcohol into
Right.
this facility.
So what do we say? What is our next line to tell them, like, this will happen if we continue doing this?
I would say that you would evacuate the building and call the police. If they're, I mean, that's just my.
But
Yeah,
again,
I just
this-
never gotten to this point before.
Again, this is something that needs to go into our contracts and policies and procedures. So that's something that we need to think about and comment on in that paperwork. Go ahead.
What caterer are we use on that? This would have.
No,
to
they
be-
get not using.
They get their own caterer.
They get their own
Then
caterers.
they should be blacklisted.
Yeah, that's
Well-
what I was gonna ask. Do we have a list of vendors that are not allowed in the camping?
No,
I
this
never
is,
know.
this is what we need to add to it. We need to say that, if you're giving us if you're bringing a caterer in that we have deemed irresponsible in any way, or, whatever, we will not allow that. And we can have a list of, I don't know the legalities of it, maybe we can have a list of approved caterers, or,
I don't think we can use for a town, but.
right, that's what I'm saying. I
If we
don't
go
know
to
the
Board of Health.
legality of all of this.
I wonder if isn't Board of Health the ones who approves the caterers in the first? So could we talk to them and say, we've had issues with these caterers, can they be
Right.
not approved, basically? for our
Exactly, and we can, let our vendors know.
Don't use them. yeah.
Right, we can let our customers know that, maybe they need to get it approved with Board of Health and based on that.
I think they have to anyway, like.
They do.
Yeah, so that could be, if we go to them, the Board of Health could be the ones that say no,
Right.
like they've broken rules.
And we need to put it out to vendors that this is the expectation and we make it on a list and lose a job here.
Was the owner of the catering firm there, or was this just his staff?
So I don't know,
My guess is it was just the staff.
I opened the event and then I'd come back when the bar was leaving. So I only got pieces of what the bar had said. So I left before the catering staff got here originally because I opened the wedding. So I don't know necessarily the logistics. They just told me that the catering was part of it. Also, the guests were a part of it. It wasn't just the catering staff, but that's why they had 3 strikes and then they were told to go home.
Right,
So we can send a letter to the caterer saying that this was identified as an issue, the bar service,
we need to talk to the bar
caterers.
service too.
Yeah, and then maybe just send them a letter giving them a warning that, you're on our radar, exactly, exactly.
I'm sure he wouldn't have gone along.
No.
Yeah, because I don't think the bar would have left unless it was real. They didn't want to be,
They're liable if something happens.
right, they didn't want
That's
to
why
be
they
liable,
did
so they got the heck out.
it. Yeah.
I don't blame them.
No.
So, but we do need to put that out there, but again, the contract is with the customer, the bride and groom, so to speak, or who's ever hosting the party, hosting the event, and the bar service. Same with the caterer. It's between the caterer and the renter.
Right.
So but we do need to have a protocol and an explicit statement in our contracts or and policies and procedures. So that's why I want you to get a look at the policies and procedures. Yes.
This might be I don't even know if this is included in terms of policies and procedures, but if it's something that goes to the bride, I guess. I had talked to Audrey in the past about decor coming in and out. So we've never had really a situation where they've been allowed to bring anything in advance. But we've been having a couple things where they've like brought linens, and then we have to store them. We have to find a home for them because they're the Saturday event and not the Friday event. And now I don't want to be at risk of something breaking because it's sitting in our building, and we had to find some place the only place in the building we have a spot to put anything is in that tiny closet.
Right.
Where guests can't get access to it. But that was, I mean, God forbid, like a linen disappeared, I don't know if we become liable because we took care of it for a day. So I just want something in place to say whether we just don't do it anymore, or we have a system in place to what if we are accepting decor.
That actually is something to consider, and we should put that in our policies. We need a policy on it. So, right, and we need to understand, and when Dory's here, since she's someone that talks to the brides and grooms, we have to adhere to the contract. And the contract has to explicitly say these things. And it also needs to be verbalized when they're renting, when they put their deposit down, so that they can make an informed decision about how they're going to proceed. So again, verbal as well as written is always best. Yes.
So that's what pops in my head. Sorry. In terms of outside alcohol, previous to the bar's licensure starting, is there a policy in place to say if they're drinking before the event? I've always said no, because I don't know, I've always just assumed no outside alcohol regardless, but I've had guests ask, like, we want to drink champagne in the bridal suite, we want to be able to do all these types of things. I don't know what that is pre-licensed to the bar starting.
If they're renting the bridal cottage
Yeah.
and camping or whatever, they can drink in those areas.
What about the office?
The office,
I don't think that they can drink anywhere on the property.
Right.
no,
I think this falls under like a state park or whatever. You can't have any alcohol anywhere, whether you're camping. The only way we're allowed to is because of the bar service. But from what I understand, there is no alcohol allowed on the property at all.
I thought they were allowed to if they were renting out.
Strictly, we already did that as one of the rules, that there was only going to be on the porch in the building.
Right, the bartender was there during the event, but then once they rented. Okay, I apologize, I misunderstood.
So another question on
It even says it.
from the caterer perspective. We don't have the caterer sign anything when they come in here, like a clean up after your mess, or, if you break
They just show up.
butcher block or something like
Yeah,
that.
reliability.
Or if you leave your equipment,
So there are caterers, there's been so many different types of caterers, but the problem is there's different types that come into the system. So like, we had an event last night where the caterers just dropped food and then they paid for servers. So the servers aren't the catering company, so it's a different company. We have caterers who stay the whole night and will mop when they're going, which is just their routine. So we've never had anything in place to say like, you are caterers and this is what you're responsible for at the camp. The only rule we have now with them is that we make sure they take all their stuff, or we leave it outside. But the caterers are so different, like whether it's just drop and go and their servers, or whether it's a full service where they have an event coordinator, so it's hard to like give them, I guess.
So maybe in the back in the kitchen when the caterers are, we put something in there like the rules of the camp for caterers or something like that, like one of the signs, kind of like the place out the safety signs. No drinking on the job, like, something like that, don't do drugs, like, things like that, the obvious stuff, Have we used this caterer before that?
So it wasn't on our job sheet, the caterer's name was, so I don't know what it was and I assumed that eventually the other caretakers found out what it was, but I left before they showed up, so I didn't get to find out who they were directly.
are we using those sheets yet? For everything?
It should be, they should be the playbooks.
Yeah, sometimes there's holes, so that was one of them. I opened that one, I didn't know which caterers were coming, but I assumed that we got the name, whether it's through the bar or the guests or the other caretakers who were here. I didn't catch their name because I wasn't here when I got here.
Okay.
It
And I
wasn't.
was gonna address the marketing piece under departmental updates.
Okay.
Just get approval to print those. So,
I want to shy away from signing a contract between the camp and certain payers because I feel like that's limiting to potential customers, you know.
You know, should have the general terms and conditions.
Right, right, posting is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to include you on the policies and procedures, just like renting the cabins when we had unruly guests. We won't be renting to them again, that kind of thing. Okay? All of that will need to be stated. So everybody take a look at them this week so that we can get them off to town council if need be. If we get them. Okay. Under old business, Dory's not here for correspondence. So.
I did have,
Oh, sorry.
so sorry, I did get a message through Facebook, somebody was, I think it was it last weekend? It was a Friday night, they were camping, and sent a message, and I didn't get it till 2 hours later, but they were camping the night, I think it was like a Friday night or something. And he was like, my friends are camping, and no one's at the camp, who do I contact? Or something, I don't know. Didn't sound like it was.
I was here. So on our sheet, it just said a name was camping, so I assumed it was one person who was staying in a camp, so I was waiting for that person to show up. I didn't realize it was a college who was coming.
It was a what?
It was like a college group that came. So I just didn't know they were gonna come in a whole crew. I was waiting for one person, and I was running the wedding that night by myself, so I just didn't catch them at the
No,
front door.
that's fine, like, it brought it onto my head, I'm like, you
How
know.
many cabins are there?
Well, this first half of the north end was being rented already by a family, and so they took, I think 3, but I had to bring a bunch of cots over for them, so they used the cots.
Okay.
Because there weren't enough beds.
My question, and that's fine, like, but, yeah, it just brought up the thing, like, we have this handbook that we're giving to the brides, maybe we should do a handbook for campers. Because this guy had no idea who to contact, no idea, like, he was messaging me through Facebook, and I didn't get it, like, till 2 hours later, like, he gets here, and like, there's no one to call, no, what if we weren't here?
Right, that's the, yeah, it was like.
Maybe there should be like, even like a one-page thing of information that goes out to the campers.
And maybe we need to have a policy that says somebody's here representing the camp until 10, or, you know, whatever.
After hours emergency, you can contact this
This
number,
number, right,
you know. So,
right, all things, that's why we're doing this, for the policies and procedures, okay? Anything else? And you got my thing about watering the plants. Thank you. Okay, all right. Under old business, anybody have anything they need to discuss?
Yes.
Okay. I do want to say that I walked the grounds Monday, last weekend, Saturday, I think, with Ed Sheehan. And that circle is 500 feet around the circumference of it. And I showed him our plan that we had approved. He also, so he's going, I told him everything needed to be itemized. He's going to give us that itemization. And he also mentioned, I don't know if it'll come to fruition or not, but the lot that is next to his shop, there's apparently a shed company going in there, and on 58, and he was called, the guy that owns the lot called him and said, "You want any boulders?" And he's like, "No, I don't need them." And I said, "Oh, we need them." So hopefully we're gonna get them for free. So that was kind of a good news thing. And being 500 feet, if we want to mulch around there, he explained to me that the mulch they get at a typical landscape place, about $32, $34 a yard, is not the kind of mulch he gets. His mulch is at $50-something a yard because it's actual, it's a much better grade of mulch that doesn't need to be replaced as often and such. So that's something we need to consider when he gets his itemization. I told him to price out both. He also suggested if you just wanted to wood chip around the edge instead of mulch. So these are all things that we can once we see the itemized.
Before they drop the rules, make sure it's not in gas lines.
I already mentioned that. I already definitely told him that. And, yep, so if there was anything else, but that's the only old business I have. Are we still good with, roof and,
I haven't contacted them.
okay,
I have to speak to the building inspector.
great.
Tuesday was already set. Every Tuesday when he's in office.
Yeah,
and
so the selectmen meet next Tuesday. Okay? All right, any other team reports?
Yeah, so the marketing piece, so I had sent that out to everybody and I didn't get any feedback except from Melissa. Is everybody okay with that? Are we good to print as is?
When did you send
I
it?
didn't get it.
I sent it out, it was a while ago, right after that June meeting.
Okay.
Oh, I
Yeah,
remember,
yeah.
I have to.
So I would send it and just to let you know if you have any, well, then
Oh,
just.
no, I did send it. No, I remember texting you.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
that's great.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So if everybody's good with the information that's in it, then I'll just get, do you want me to just go ahead and get them printed? Is there like a dollar amount that I shouldn't go over? Should we talk about that? I can't print them where I work because it's a conflict of interest, but I know that Webster Printing does your print because I print it from Webster. Webster
They
does
do.
your name.
Yeah.
They did the brochures.
So, yeah, they did the brochures, they've done the newsletters, they've done some flyers.
Right.
So I can.
How many do you think?
I would say just to start with like 50 of them, and then that way if we have any changes or anything that's in the policy, it's not.
We can update as we go.
Yeah, we can update
Right.
it. So I would say they should
That should
be.
get us through like till next year anyway. 'Cause we-
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
get the bridal show
Yeah.
coming in, so maybe that,
Yeah.
you know, but 50 maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how much Ernie marks up my pricing, but I know I would sell it to him for like 50 cents a piece.
Okay.
So if I would order 50 of them, it shouldn't be more than $50, I would think.
Okay. So you wanna spend up to 100?
Yeah, that works for me.
Up to 100?
Okay.
Dollars? Yeah. Okay. I don't know if it's cheaper. Anything is up there. Okay, so, all right, so up to $100.
Okay.
We need to vote on that?
Did you send it out under your name?
Yep, I'm on your phone. Yep.
Okay. But I do, now I remember I texted you on that.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Dory's not here, so the departmental update is, we'll have to wait till the next meeting. And I think, is there anything else on caretaker report?
I just have one more thing. Could we, I tried to look through the website, that might be there, maybe I just missed it. Could we get the layouts on the website? Because we're still getting like hand-drawn ones or ones people make themselves. And it just makes it tough, like when they want 4 tables across here and they don't know there's posts in the floor,
Can
so.
you email it to me? And I'll put them on.
Sure,
I
yeah.
can,
'Cause then we can direct-
Do you want a PDF of them? Because they're on Google Doc right now, but I can export
You
them
can convert it
as a PDF.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Yeah. Just so that we can direct them in that way. It's say like, we are using these types of layouts and there can be slight twists to them, because I have them made that fit to scale, whereas some people might just draw little circles and not realize that doesn't work in this space.
Right.
So it's really helpful at weddings, so we don't have to tweak it and then get it pre-approved by them when they show up.
Okay.
That's it.
She's doing Facebook and the official campaign.
The document.
The document. And Wedding Wire, Dory checks every day.
Melissa, I'll get you a copy of the flyer too, that way there's a digital copy out there.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, our next meeting is the 21st. Okay. And do we have to do anything else before that? We did another Tuesday because,
We went back to Tuesdays. No, I thought we did Monday, the 21st, is that a Monday?
the 21st is a Tuesday. Why did we do the 21st?
Because it was Labor Day yesterday, and then we said we'll do it on Tuesday, and then we just agreed to do it on
No, but somebody wasn't going to be here on the 20th.
I'm not here.
You're not going to be on the 20th. and-
I'll be there.
Okay, 21st is fine. Okay,
I
we'll
mean, if
do,
you guys want to do 20, that's fine.
it doesn't matter to me. Anybody? I'm okay with the 20th, 21st. Okay, so we'll do the 21st, and then I'll say October 5th, I mean 4th?
It's back to the.
Yes, October 4th. Ooh, you're right.
So Tuesday again.
Thank you, Joan. October 5th?
Yep.
Can have, although they reserved the 2 nights, October 4th,
They do, yeah.
October 5th.
Oh, in case there isn't a quorum,
There's
You know why?
130 articles this year too, so.
in case it's
Yeah.
They always look at the two in case it's.
Yeah, so you want to do it for the 11th, October 11th? or is that-
That's Columbus.
That's a little mistake.
Should we just do it the next
How
Monday?
about the 12th? I don't remember what the board
Oh, sorry.
said.
That's
Oh,
not so I'm thinking the
Well,
6th.
we can't, I don't remember the same night.
For what, the 6th?
6th?
I'm good with Wednesday. I'm good with any
Are
night.
you dreading the
The
fact of
200th
going to town meeting and
anniversary.
then coming here on that Wednesday? Is that?
There's yoga, 6:30 to 8.
So we can have a meeting and then we go.
She can go to the meeting. She has to be inside.
Mail or something like
It
that.
might be cold, but.
I was gonna say, it might be cold in the pavilion for her.
Are we talking about for the,
There's a fireplace in there that can start
what
fire.
about the 7th? A Thursday night.
We could do the 7th.
Trying to remember who else is.
I don't think it's, no, I don't think
There's
it's
like
ever
41
gone tonight.
articles.
Sorry, before you agree on the 7th,
No,
it
they-
says on our thing that we have a Hanson Public Library author speaking at 6:30 on the 7th.
Here.
Yeah.
I said that I
Okay.
think it's another.
We're gonna wipe out that first week then, and we're gonna move to the second week. And we will go with the 12th. How's that?
I don't know what the board of selectmen's meetings are in that month, I haven't.
So do we have to not meet when they meet? Yeah, we can meet. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not meeting later on.
And none of us are on their agenda.
I mean, also, we can do Zoom as well if we can.
What is the activity that the 200th committee is having?
October 2nd, it's like an old
That's a
Wednesday, it's gonna be a
Saturday.
carnival, it's a Saturday. It's a carnival, it's, we have some live local music. We have Davy the Clown is coming. The food trucks are all at a food truck festival in Quincy on the same day, so we're looking into the Boy Scouts cooking food. I have to make some other phone calls. We have some calls in for different caterers to come and do food too. So yeah, it's basically a carnival, and we're doing the time capsule. So we're pulling the time capsule from Town Hall from the 150th and bringing it to Indian Head, and we have a time capsule ceremony. So we'll be opening up the 1970 time capsule and we'll be creating the 2020. So,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
I know, because Jim Hickey keeps pushing it at the meetings.
Yeah, I know.
Bring
I
things
know.
up.
Yeah, yeah, meetings.
Does anyone object to Frank suggested possibly instead of the 21st, we push this off to the 27th?
And that kind of makes it so the next meeting we have is 2 weeks away from the 27th. Instead of having to worry about the whole.
When is the bridal show?
I was gonna bring that up after we decided on the meeting.
19.
Who was gonna help with that? I forgot to
When
mention
is
that.
it?
So it's September 19th on Sunday, it's noon to 3.
Right, so we have Hanson Day on the 18th and the bridal show on the 19th. So this is putting us in a position where,
That's why we did
And I
it
have
the
the
20th, because of that.
right.
So that's why we went to the 21st.
Did you want to say something, Danny?
I just really want a quick question about the bridal show, just because it came up. In terms of, is that a situation where it starts at 12, like people show up? So how early do I need caretakers here for people to set up and everything like that?
Which, I don't know, how long did it take her to set up last
I
week?
mean, we did it outside, and I think the plan is to do it outside unless it's raining, it's gonna be in here, but I think if it's outside, I mean,
It was minimal.
Jory's been in contact with the woman.
Okay.
I mean, an hour maybe.
Okay.
It doesn't take, I mean, they're just 6-foot tables.
Because there's a wedding the night before, so they will be here to break down the wedding, but I just wanted to know, like, I didn't know.
Double
space
check
thing
with
or
Dory.
anything or anything like
But
that.
I think she
Okay.
probably, I mean, an hour maybe.
Okay.
I don't know what time she will go.
And Dory plans on being there to meet them
Yeah.
on that Saturday, so, not that Saturday. So who has volunteered to be there at Hanson Day on the 18th? I know I can go for a little while.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
It's, I don't know what time
It's 12 to 2, I believe, or 11 to 2.
I'll
It's
be
just at the table.
Well, you're never here.
Yeah, I was about to
Maybe we'll have a couple of nights.
Yeah, well, she can try to do it.
So I will be there on the 18th. I'll also pop in on the 19th as well.
It's
Because I don't know.
11 to 2.
Okay, so it's 3 hours. So maybe,
So what I'll do is I can go from like, I'll go from like 10 to 12 or something like that.
Sure.
And then just like set up.
and I'll go 12 to,
Yeah. and I can-
to 2.
do whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. And do we bring our own tables and everything?
No, so we have to bring the easy ups. I have an easy up.
I have one in the house too.
Okay. And then, I washed the table drape, so that's all set. They give us the 6-foot table.
Okay, and what are we putting there?
Brochures.
Fishing pond last time.
The little
The
kids.
fishing one, I'll bring my cornhole, how's that?
Sounds good.
You know?
There should be a cornhole here that belongs to the
Oh,
camp.
yeah, that'll be raised money for.
Yeah, so Julie had.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
We had a cornhole tournament, there should have been a cornhole.
Yeah, but I've never seen them.
I've never seen cornhole here for our own person.
I've never seen them.
Truly missed something.
I've never seen them. Regardless, I'll bring them.
No problem.
And do we want to do some kind of guessing jar or something? And we can give away free night camping?
Maybe we do like M&Ms.
Sure.
Who's gonna count? See how many are in there?
I'll come on.
Go and watch it.
Yeah. A counting jar or something, guess the M&Ms in the jar or something, don't make it a giant jar. You know?
I also like to do a little email list, adding if people want to add to our email list, because I keep that.
So put out a sheet.
Just a little, like a little piece of paper with name and email, so people can.
So what I can do is I'll do it as a part of the guessing jar thing, right? See how many
Yeah.
things are in there and then email them off.
Your name, your email, and your guess.
Yeah, that's good. No, I'll print it.
And then you can just have,
I'll do the jar and the M&Ms.
okay. Yes.
I was gonna say maybe a flyer for the Halloween
I
event.
was just gonna say that,
Yeah.
yeah, Melissa made a flyer, do you want me to see if Webster can print some of
That would be
those
awesome.
too?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to confirm what would, sorry,
Yeah.
the Halloween event. What are the hours that were confirmed? Because
Right.
we did 2 sessions, I looked at the flyer, it was 1 to 3 and then 4 to 6. We did 2 sessions.
But the middle schoolers, now you said, don't really want to come out in those hours.
The ones that you guys said were, I think the
I don't
next to hit
remember.
dusk like that's a good idea.
I'm sorry?
I think the hours you guys did were fine last time. we approved them.
3 to 7?
3 to 7 is what we decided.
3 to 7.
3 to 7.
That's fine. I just couldn't remember.
Just make it
So
spooky.
instead of 2 groups, we do 1. We don't have, I think we should keep things outside.
Well, we have a little meeting,
Yeah.
we have a meeting at.
Just because, in case whatever happens with COVID. But remember last year we had them decorating something over
Yeah.
there, and we can have stuff on the porch. And we got the storyteller.
We can talk about this tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Call your number.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Are we good to go? Anything else? No? I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Anyone want a second? All those in favor? Okay, good night.